Earlier today, Fallout 4 got a major new next-gen update. This was a roughly 14GB download on Steam, but a bit larger at 22GB on consoles. This update added in a wide variety of things. On one hand, new next-gen features were added for console players, some of these being incredibly positive, as well as some of the bug fixes are genuine game changers for those of you on consoles. 3 new free DLCs were added for all players, and some of this is genuinely some really great quality and enjoyable content. Although, as I'm sure many of you are starting to see online, there is a fair amount of backlash coming out around this update as well, and it's not even just mods breaking. So in this video, I'll explain why the Fallout 4 Next Gen update is kind of broken, and actually in more ways than one. But since you watched this video, I'm gonna make sure you get to play some extra Fallout this month. That thanks to today's video sponsor, Factor. Factor will help you spend less time cooking and way more time gaming. Once you subscribe, you'll get a big box of meals delivered right to your front door, and congrats, you no longer have to worry about what's to eat this week, because all of these meals, even this delicious looking filet mignon, only take 2 minutes to make in the microwave, and you don't even have to use a plate. No cooking and no dishes. How could it get any better? Factor has fed me this entire week as I grind out a bunch of Fallout content, and the best part is you're actually eating good. Factor meals are chef prepared and never frozen, and you can even hit your fitness goals with meal preference options like keto, calorie smart, or even vegan. But I know for a lot of you, even 2 minutes is a long time. Thankfully, Factor also offers a bunch of snack options like smoothies, juices, and more, and since you watched this video, I'll make sure to hook you up. You can get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders using my link down below. So click that link in the description or scan the QR code with your phone now. So what was easily the biggest feature to come from this update are some of the performance improvements as well as new performance features. Fallout 4 will now run natively on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. So instead of using backwards compatibility to run the last gen version of the game on the modern consoles, it'll now just run there natively. And as a result of this, you likely will see a bit of a performance and stability bump for the game, but even beyond that, there is also just a new performance/quality mode added. You'd find this in-game on consoles in the display settings. With performance mode, the game will target 60 FPS and dynamically tune your resolution to get you to 60 FPS. So at points it might be running at 4K, but then at other points it'll be running much lower than 4K. And just right off the bat, this aspect of the update is genuinely incredible. Don't expect a crazy visual overhaul. There are a bunch of comparison videos out there right now, and while there definitely are some minor lighting differences, at the end of the day, it still looks like Fallout 4. It's not going to look dramatically better as a result of this update, and the real major difference you'll feel on consoles is way smoother frame rates. Even if you're in downtown Boston, on an Xbox Series X, I was able to explore this area with next to no issues. I was mainly testing this out in the performance mode just to see if I could stick to 60 FPS, and yeah, I could. There's occasionally a slight hitch, but the vast majority of the time I was freely exploring and it felt great, buttery smooth. And this is a really big deal for Xbox Series S players. In the past, on Xbox Series S, Boston would basically just flat out crash your game, but that seems to be totally resolved with this update. The game feels and plays much smoother, and you're very rarely seeing the Xbox home screen. But even when it comes to the quality mode, the good news only continues. Depending on which type of display you're using, the quality mode will function a bit differently. If you're running a 4K display, it'll just tune the game down to 30 FPS, how quality mode works in most games. But if you're using a 120Hz display, it'll actually tune to 40 FPS instead, which is a really nice bump. So you're almost in this hybrid where the game looks great, but you're getting 40 FPS. Although the best version really seems to be playing on a 1440p display. As if you use a 1440p display, you'll be able to play with quality mode on, aka ultra settings from PC, while still getting the full 60 FPS experience on consoles. And for a lot of players, this is where you're going to hit that sweet spot, being able to play the game with great visuals, but still have plenty of FPS so everything feels smooth. Unfortunately, you can't manually do this as far as I could tell, you just have to use a 1440p display. Between my own testing and reading a ton of the initial reports online, Fallout 4 is running very smoothly on consoles right now, and this aspect seems like a resounding win. Although, there definitely were some other nice additions. There's a new installed content menu, so you can see everything you have installed currently from Creation Club content, or even some of the new free additions from today. Several of the Creation Club mod authors were also added to the credits in-game, which is another really nice touch. Although unfortunately, that's definitely where the great news ends, and some of the questionable choices begin. Another advertised feature of this update was widescreen and ultra widescreen support, which yeah, this is is technically ultra widescreen Fallout 4 without any mods, except as many of you are probably noticing, there's also an issue. It stretches your entire HUD. So Fallout 4 will run natively at ultra wide resolutions, but your HUD will just be massively stretched out because you're playing at a wider resolution. And this was just genuinely comical to me. I have no idea how Bethesda thought this was an acceptable implementation, especially when the vast majority of PC users were just using a free mod that did this without the HUD issues already. And when you actually get into crafting and things like that, it just looks ridiculous. One of the other changes that came on PC was around eye present interval, and the fact that many users are no longer able to disable this in the Fallout 4 INI. Basically, this INI setting is what controls VSync, locking your FPS in Fallout 4, and that's very relevant for this game because your FPS is tied to the game physics. How fast you move, reload, or enemies move are all tied to your FPS if it goes above 60. Previously, you could just set this value to 0, and your FPS would become unlocked, and then you could use another program to lock it to whatever you want. For whatever reason, after the next gen update, there are tons of players, including me, that cannot get this to work anymore. It'll just keep defaulting to 1 or 2, which, due to my monitor's refresh rate, would just lock my game's FPS at 48, which is quite a bit less than ideal. Thankfully, I was able to work around this by just setting eye present interval to save to 2, and then using an external program to lock my FPS to 60, but the fact that a ton of people are going to jump into Fallout 4 today and immediately start having to look up guides on how to play this game at 60 FPS is just insane. I mean, this was literally the next gen update. The fact that it's introducing this issue is crazy to me. Fallout 4 was verified on Steam Deck today as a result of this update, and it appears all that Bethesda did to get here was remove the launcher. Typically, when you launch Fallout 4, the launcher appears first, and this gives you the option to edit your settings, mostly your display and visual settings. So Bethesda just flat out removed that on Steam Deck so it'll launch directly into the game. And no, you can't edit those settings in game. So now whatever settings you last saved in the launcher are effectively permanent, unless you add some lines to the executable to get the launcher to pop up again. This is an example of Bethesda wanting to get the Steam Deck verified status and creating a worse experience for users as a result. As you can imagine, a ton of members of the Steam Deck community are incredibly frustrated with Bethesda right now. So okay, not the best start, but thankfully the update also did come with some bug fixes. Fallout 4 had a ton of issues with the Chinese and Japanese translations, but many of the issues around this were resolved with this update. One of the worst bugs still affecting Fallout 4 was the 0 kilobyte bug on PlayStation. It's been around for years and it appeared during Creation Club, where basically, as you went to save the game, it would say you needed 0 kilobytes of additional space to be able to create that save, effectively blocking you from saving. Thankfully now that is gone, and you're able to save Fallout 4 freely. Beyond that, some other progress blocking bugs were fixed on PlayStation, some game crashes and FPS killers were resolved on Xbox, and in general, Fallout 4 got some bug fixes for all platforms. There's an issue where the Vault 111 door just wouldn't open, and thankfully that's gone. There's kind of a weird bug where you couldn't progress the initial Go Home quest with Codsworth, as he just wouldn't initiate the next quest stage, but that too was resolved. There's a bug where you could get horrifically trapped in dialogue with Preston, but that was fixed. One where the level up notification would never go away, even if you didn't have a level up, and even some flickering issues in Vault 111 were resolved. The update was relatively light on bug fixes. I personally expected a bit more, but thankfully some of the critical ones were addressed, like that PlayStation bug that's been around for ages. Although unfortunately, there are also quite a few critical bugs that weren't touched. Most notably the weapon debris bug. This is one where just as a result of firing at things and creating debris, you can immediately crash Fallout 4 to desktop. This could be as a result of firing for seconds or minutes. This was already fixed by modders, and considering most players will trigger weapon debris naturally just by playing, this is kind of a big one to leave in the game. You probably crashed as a result of this one at least once, and I know I have. I'm honestly shocked Bethesda didn't address this one. To go along with Fallout 4's next gen update, there was also effectively 3 new free DLCs that got added via some unreleased Creation Club content. The last Creation Club update came to Fallout 4 in late 2019, but the mod authors in the program continued developing things into 2021. So now we're seeing some of that work finally releasing with this free update. The makeshift weapon pack will add in 5 new weapons as well as a couple of extras. You'll be introduced to this new content via a short quest called When Pigs Fly. And this is very much so a Creation Club quest. If you remember those, an NPC will talk to you, but it's just reusing some voice lines from the rest of the game, and the vast majority of the story is told through notes or terminal entries. And from these, you'll learn about these two merchants in the Commonwealth who are developing some new weapons and selling them. Over the course of this quest, you'll get many of the new weapons for yourself, but thankfully some are also integrated into the level list of the game, so you could find them in other places and from other vendors. A bunch of the new weapons are launchers, and there actually is a reason for that, and my favorite is probably the baseball launcher. It is literally a weaponized pitching machine that you could run around firing tons of baseballs at enemies with. This one will include some mods, most notably a flame attachment, so you can instead fling flaming baseballs at enemies, which is awesome. A pipe grenade launcher is added, basically being a piece of pipe with a firing mechanism attached to it. You get a special unique variant of this one from the quest, and it's really just incredibly satisfying to use. It has a really nice breakaway animation where the top barrel turns to the side, as well as I found the firing sound on this one to be pretty satisfying. It feels meaty and nice. And this is a really nice early to mid-game explosive option, especially if you're pursuing that build. And there even is a more advanced big brother with the Chinese grenade launcher. This launcher does more damage, can have reflex sights attached, and even has a magazine for more damage output. In every way, it is meant to be an advanced launcher, and that's intentional. On one of the terminals during the quest, you could find the custom order made by these vendors. Each of these orders corresponding to one of the new weapons, except the Chinese grenade launcher, because this one wasn't actually ordered from them. Instead, this terminal entry describes a ghoul client who is ex-military and said the Chinese used grenade launchers in Anchorage that could punch through power armor like a wet bag. Either way, this group of merchants that you encounter during the quest ended up finding one of these Chinese launchers and reversed engineered it to create most of the equipment they're selling. That's the reason they're mostly selling launchers. You do get a unique custom launcher from the quest, and this is just a cool addition, clearly not as handmade as the rest of the weapon pack, and a very powerful launcher for the mid to late game. There's a new saw blade launcher built out of an old bike. This is a chargeable weapon that will sling saw blades at your enemy and has some visceral sounds to go along with that. There's also a Gauss mod you could apply to this one to increase its damage and decrease its charge time. It's another really cool weapon that you could definitely modify to make quite powerful, although sadly this gauge doesn't work, so you can only tell it's fully charged by sound, which I found to be a bit annoying. I wish there was a visual cue. Although with the Gauss mod, you can make it so this thing charges fast enough to almost be used as a semi-automatic weapon, which is pretty awesome. A new piggy bank mod is added to the Fat Man. You could literally fire piggy banks at your enemies, which have a variety of custom sound effects and explode into caps on impact. To go along with this, there's also piggy bank mines and grenades, which honestly are about on par with nuclear grenades. These things have a giant blast radius and deal a ton of damage, and they even have the unique benefit of allowing you to loot caps off the ground after they explode. Although if you're not interested in explosives, we also have the nail gun. Very similar to the one we had in New Vegas. This will be that familiar super high rate of fire weapon that has pretty crappy range, basically being a shotgun, but it too features some mods, and with the Gauss mod, you'll not only have rifle range, but also pack a much heavier punch. And one interesting aspect to note is just how many of these weapons use completely new types of ammo that you'll need to find in the world. Although, sadly, this one is broken on Xbox right now. It seems like meshes or textures for the weapons were just not added, and you can't see them. You'll get these errors floating around, and if you do loot one of the weapons, they'll just be invisible in your hands. But overall for me, I actually really like this one. I think it's a quality piece of new content for Fallout 4, and I'm really happy they added it. But the piece of content to definitely have the most hype around it was Enclave Remnants. And I believe what you think of this one will be completely determined by how much you hyped it up in your own mind, because this will be a new but very simple quest in Fallout 4. And more than anything else, this quest is a means for distributing the new content added in by this one. So you'll be tasked with locating the Enclave in the Commonwealth, and you'll discover that they have set up not one, but in fact several new encampments in the Commonwealth. As you go to these, you'll be met with Enclave soldiers. There's no dialogue or really no interactions outside of just fighting these soldiers, and you'll do so in a few different locations. Upon reading some of the terminals, you'll find out that the Enclave dispatched soldiers to the Commonwealth in order to locate valuable items that were spotted in this region. And this is where those expectations come into play. If you went into this one hoping for a proper Enclave questline, you're going to be disappointed. Literally, your only option for interaction is fighting. And while there are a couple of terminals, there's really not that much going on story-wise. It's a very simple quest. But instead, if you view this as a means of distributing a bunch of existing Enclave items, I think it's a pretty cool new addition. Basically, all of the Enclave members you encounter during this quest will be using some of these new items. Many of these were just previous Creation Club releases, which are now added totally free to your game. They're new Enclave skins for the weapons and armors of Fallout 4. These look pretty sleek and do apply to a variety of items. There are two new sets of power armor added with this one, the Hellfire power armor, as well as the XO2 power armor. Both of these look fine and they have some of the basic features that you'd expect them to, as well as 2 new weapons. There's a new Tesla cannon which fires energy beams that could even connect in between enemies, and the heavy incinerator from Fallout New Vegas is added back in as a proper ranged flame weapon. So for some of you, this probably looks familiar. For me, I paid money for all this stuff in the past. It already released via Creation Club and I bought it. They're just literally being added into the game as a nice free add-on. And of course, they're Fallout themed, so personally, I'm pretty happy. I feel like the way they added this in with all of these quests interconnecting it, and you could literally just loot the new items off of enemies you encounter, is a pretty nice way to do it. And if you just view this as a weapon pack, I feel like it is a pretty nice free DLC. And it does come with 2 genuinely new items. There's a new Colonel outfit for the Enclave. You'll just get this by doing the quest, as well as a bunch of new Enclave themed workshop items. After beating the main quest, you'll have to go around and clear out Enclave encampments in the Commonwealth. At each one of these, they'll be studying something specific, which I thought was a nice touch, but also at each of these encampments, you'll unlock a few new workshop items, which again, I thought was pretty cool. I feel like it was a better way to implement this, so you have to go around and earn them as opposed to just finding them somewhere. If you're hoping for a proper Enclave DLC, just download America Rising 2. And for what it is, I think Enclave Remnants is definitely a fine addition to the game. It really is hard to argue with some free new weapons and armors. Beyond that, there is this Halloween workshop. This will implement a variety of new Halloween-themed items that you could place at settlements. You'll unlock these via a short quest. Part of the Harbor Master Hotel was used for a Halloween party just before the bombs dropped, but now you could go back to find the ghoulified party members as well as all of their decorations and some very interesting themed rooms you could run into. It's a pretty fun and unique mini dungeon, and while I am more of a sim settlements than build by hand person, some of this new Halloween stuff is cool for camp builders. This will also come with a few new hats that you could find at the Halloween party and loot. Although sadly, this one too is broken. For both me as well as a bunch of other users out there, the quest won't properly continue. You'll get the quest initially after it actually spawns in your inventory, but you'll have to listen to this broadcast and then nothing happens. I was able to navigate around this by looking up quest stages and using console commands to manually force it to go to the next stage, but otherwise I think a lot of people, especially those on console, if you're having this problem, will simply have to wait for Bethesda. Beyond all of that, there's currently a separate issue where those who got Fallout 4 for free with PlayStation Plus are being prompted to purchase a PlayStation 5 version of this game to play the free next-gen update. This is a bug, so don't buy this. Both Bethesda and PlayStation seem to have confirmed that this is a bug and it is being resolved. And actually, as I'm filming this, several users are reporting be able to freely download this update, so go and check. There are a bunch of other reports of issues with some of the Creation Club content that users bought, not actually downloading after this update went live or just being missing from their game. So they built with a bunch of Creation Club content and now it's just all gone, making their settlements look wrong. This too just seems like it's a bug as a result of this update. Some users report being able to fix this by fully reinstalling Fallout 4 on their console. Although of course the other major consideration here is mods breaking. If you're playing on console, basically none of your mods should be broken unless they have a direct conflict with one of the new pieces of added content. Like if there's a mod that's specifically in the spot of this Enclave settlement, yeah, that'll probably be a problem, but for the vast majority of mods on consoles, you should be good. Although of course for PC users, it's a bit of a different story. The main mods to break on PC are going to be the Fallout 4 script extender mods, and these are PC exclusive. The Fallout 4 script extender dev has already posted an update on this saying, the Fallout 4 update has broken Fallout 4 SE, and the rest of the native code modding scene similarly to Skyrim's Anniversary Edition patch. I'm working on an update and cannot currently offer a timeline for its availability, nor whether there will be any critical technical issues that would block an update. With this being a larger update for Fallout 4, this likely means that the script extender will take days to even perhaps a week or two to actually update. And some of the other mods that were also broken and reliant on script extender will likely take weeks to months to update if they ever do. When this happened to Skyrim with the Anniversary Edition, it never really recovered. The Skyrim modding scene is still very segregated. You have some users on the pre-Anniversary Edition patch and some others who are on the Anniversary Edition patch or even one of the newer ones with creations. You'll very likely see something similar happen to Fallout 4 right now, and even beyond just Fallout 4 script extender and some other mods like that breaking. With this update, Bethesda used some updated archives that cannot currently be accessed by community tools, so a bunch of community tools will also need to be updated. Otherwise, that is your rundown on the Fallout 4 Next Gen update. Obviously a bit of a controversial one, but if you do want to look forward to the future of Fallout, check out this video, because Fallout 76's next update is looking really good.